Okay, well, we're looking there, Lynn. First off, can you tell us where you were born and where you grew up, and then how you ended up in the Marine Corps?
Yes, well, first of all, I never did grow up, as you can see. Known as a 5'3" giant. I was born in southeastern Kansas in the small farming community of Cedarville, Kansas, and it's just about 12 miles north of the Oklahoma line, which is the border of the Cherokee Nation. Went to school through my first 7 years, or first 8 years, I guess it was, in Cedarville. And then we moved way up the road to about 20 miles to another little community, Granola, Kansas. And Granola has significance that a lot of people don't realize, but it was one of the very first cattle shipping points in the Midwest, way before Dodge City and Wichita and all of them places. But the stockyards are still standing here as were the last time I was there, and it's quite a little town. The streets are very wide, so you could turn the big wagons around carrying all the supplies for the cattle drives.
Yeah, that was typical of those Midwest towns that handled cattle.
And for all the cattle to come through there, and then it was right on the railroad tracks where they could come right up, and they had natural terrain where the cattle couldn't climb up the side of the riverbanks. So it was a perfect place. There was water, there was feed. They come in, and that's where I grew up and went to high school. And I tried to get in the Marine Corps when the Korean War opened in 1952, and of course I'd been riding some race horses and breaking colts, and I was a whole 5'2" tall and weighed about 112 pounds, and went up to Wichita with my friends, and we went up to join the Marine Corps, and there was 9 of us, I believe it was, that went, and the other 8, they went to the Marine Corps, and they told me, the recruiters looked at me and says, go home and grow up.
Oh.
And so it took me from 1952 until January of 1956 to get into the Marine Corps. I did get signed up. I don't know how it happened because I was not knowledgeable to the military then, but they had me with the reserve unit there in Kansas, and I found out later it wasn't even a Marine Reserve, it was a Navy Reserve. But that's where I got started, and then January of 1956, shipped out, came to California, to Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, for my recruit training. All of a sudden, I've become 21 years old, you know. But it was what I'd wanted. That's what I planned on. Ever since I was a young kid, back in World War II days, I wanted 2 things. I wanted to be a rodeo cowboy because cowboys were my heroes. But then I found out after seeing the newsreels at the local movie house that the Marines were my heroes also. And so I wanted to be both. What's ironic about this, and why I'm bringing it up, I was only 5'3" when I was finally accepted into the Marine Corps. I only weighed, they told me I was going to have to gain 5 pounds in boot camp or they were going to boot me out, because I didn't weigh enough. So I went hardly eating and exercising and everything. And I told them, they can't tell me I can't do something. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And so anyway, the first thing I found out was I was reading a magazine or newspaper, something, and was talking about the Marines, and was talking about these Marines that were being awarded honors and all for their service. And of course, this was right toward the end of the Korean War, and the 1st Marine Division had just come back from Korea. And that's who I was assigned to, the 5th Marine Regiment. And this became ironic, it became a passion for me that anything anybody else could do, I could do, and I could do it better. And then, one day, I don't know how long ago, it'd been some time back, I had been to non-commissioned officer school and had come up in the top 3 in that, and had been meritorious promoted to private first class. And then I went to another school, and then we got out on, we did a 101-mile hike from Camp Pendleton to Coronado and back. And I made that, I had my certificate for it. And then that motivated me to go more. So I don't know just how it happened, but I was a squad leader in an infantry platoon, and this was right in the midst of the civil rights movement, you know, right in the mid-50s. And holy gosh, Sean, here I am. I don't even weigh 125 pounds. I already went through boot camp. I think I weighed 122 when I got out of there. But I got up there to E Company, I call it Easy Company, Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, and they assigned me as a fire team leader, and I have 3 members of my fire team, and they're all African American. And here we are in the middle of the whole transition for the world, I might say.
Yeah.
Well, here I am, 5'3", and I had a 6'3" guy. And he was lazy. He didn't want to course, but you know what? He became a Marine. And then I'll never forget Curtis Ford and Bobby Lilly. They were 2 from back in the Detroit, Chicago area. And they grew up in a kind of a rough area. But they turned around and they both became outstanding Marines. And so we started having competitions. And I got a little excited because all of a sudden our fire team was the one that was out front and doing everything. So I got into that, and then I got a chance to go to Radiological Monitor School at Desert Rock, Nevada in 1957, and that was when they were having the atomic test there. Right. And as a radiological monitor, team leader, I led the troops in as close to ground zero as was possible. And I guess it impressed somebody because next thing you know, I was a corporal. And then they sent me back to Camp Pendleton, and the next thing you know, I just left 116-degree weather over in Desert Rock, Nevada, and now I'm up in Pickle Meadows, up by Bridgeport, and we're living in igloos, and then I got a leak in my thermal boot, and they had to pull me out so I could, because my feet were so small, they had to get me special boots. And so I had a talk with I think it was a gunnery sergeant, and well, they put me down into a hooch where I wouldn't get frostbite. Talking to that gunny inspired me to go for the gusto. Don't give up, don't quit. And so that's what I did, and I thought, oh boy, and I got to go back to Camp Pendleton, and it was nice and warm there on the beach. Everybody else was freezing, but I just come from up in Bridgeport, and then I found out that I was going back up there as an instructor for cold weather indoctrination course. So, how can you win, you know? And so we went up for that, and we were supposed to be on our way back, and the weather got so bad we couldn't get trucks down Highway 395, so they took us to Reno to put us on some planes to fly us back to El Toro. Well, that didn't work out because they couldn't get the planes in. So we were sleeping on the floor of the casino in Reno, and those fine people in Nevada were feeding us because we didn't have any food or anything. So it was pretty good. And so I figured that I'd get kind of crazy and start volunteering for other things. And so here I am, already been a radiological monitor. I was already had been working there in the 2nd Infantry Training Regiment. I'd learned every weapon that the Marine Infantry had. I'd learned all about every vehicle they had at the time. And I thought, well, I'm getting a good education. And then I get back and in the meantime I have to put in, I met this young lady at the USO dance, and she insisted I was going to marry her, which I did, and in the subject. Marriage is no longer, hasn't been for 50 years. But anyway, I went in there to 155 self-propelled guns, and then went into the 106 Recoilless Rifle Platoon. And so I learned all of these weapons. And then I got out of the Marine Corps. And I thought, hey, I got to bring this in because I have absolutely nothing against the unions or anything. I didn't have what was going wrong with me at the time. And I went into work one day. I was driving his truck, and it was a Teamster. Went in and they told me I was going to have to show up at a certain time the next day and start walking the picket line. I said, well, what for? And they said we was going on strike, and I said, well, wait a minute. Okay, so I went on and make my deliveries up to the Glendale area, and I saw the recruiting office. So I went over, and I was still a reservist. So I went over, and I talked to the recruiters. They put a message in right at the headquarters of the Marine Corps. And so when I went up the next day, they said they had one last load that had to get done, perishables. And then I was going to be scheduled for my picket line. Well, message come back, sent me back on active duty. To make it faster, they were helping me out at headquarters of the Marine Corps, because instead of me being discharged from the reserves and then enlisted me back into the regulars, they put me on reserves on active duty. And that way I went right there and I reported into Camp Pendleton. That's when I started all this other stuff. And of quite exciting. So I just went along from learning everything I could learn. I learned the proper way to throw hand grenades. I learned all about the machine guns. I learned how to call in naval gunfire, airstrikes. I learned to repel out of helicopters. Did all kinds of stuff. And then they called me in one day and they says, well, my nickname was Tex, and so Colonel Red Morton, he called me Tex, and I knew something was up when he called me Tex instead of Sergeant Mattox. And so that's when they said, going to go to counterintelligence school. I'd been selected. And I says, counterintelligence. I says, that opposite of intelligence? If so, I really fit the bill. And so anyway, we went to work on that, and I ended up taking my first trip to Baltimore, Maryland, back to Fort Hollywood, Maryland, to go to the counterintelligence school put on by the Army. And I got back there in 63. Graduated in October, I think, of 63. I'd just gotten back to the States just a few days before President Kennedy was assassinated. And anyway, that was a whole new world. That was a whole new Marine Corps. And it wasn't even Marine Corps because we went to an Army school. And wow, Marines and Army schools don't mix that good. There's a whole other story behind that. But anyway, I come back to Camp Pendleton, and next thing you know, they slapped me with a set of orders that says I'm going to Okinawa. Well, I got to Okinawa and joined the 7th Counterintelligence Team. I think it like the 3rd Counterintelligence Team. And I was sitting in high heaven. I was now somebody that had a title, you know. But what I didn't realize was 3 days later that I was going to go to a meeting, and I sat down with General Ray Davis, who earned the Medal of Honor in the Korean at the Chosen. I mean. And then Colonel Gerald Fink, who was twice captured. He was a pilot, captured in World War II, and spent 6 months in Japanese POW camp, and then was shot down over Korea and spent a year in the POW camp. And I thought, wow, I'm in tall cotton company here, and then all these people walking around here, and they're wearing the ribbons from World War II and Korea and all this, and I'm walking by more colonels and generals than I'd ever seen before. And what's really amazing is I couldn't believe it, because I was all ready to go find me a bunk down in the troops' quarters aboard the ship, and it didn't happen. I didn't belong to the unit that we were transporting over to Okinawa. And then I found out that we were going to have a delay. We were going to go to Manila, Philippines, the southernmost island. And we were going to have an operation against the Muslims, the Filipino Muslims, which had taken over Manila Island. I thought, wait a minute, I don't even know where the heck I'm at. I'm not a communicator. I don't have any communication. They assigned me to the war room. I got to sleep in the same quarters with Colonel Jerry Fink, which was an honor. And I didn't have to go down and eat in the troop mess. I eat in the officers' mess. they worked it all out, the Admiral and General Davis, and next thing you know, I'm feeling like I'm a tall cotton, because nobody's messing with me. My home was in the war room, aboard the command ship, and so we continued. We made our landing. We went into Manitoba, and they transferred me by helicopter from the command ship over, because I was the only one who had any access to the situation in the Philippines. So I go in, and I go in with the Australian Special Services, which is our special forces. But I never got a chance to finish jump school. I went down to Fort Benning, Georgia to go to jump school, and then they sent me back up to Fort Holabird, Maryland. Not Fort Holabird, but Quantico, Virginia, to the CIA intelligence course. So I was sitting out there. I was going to be jumping in to the Philippines, and I'd not even jump qualified. I was, but I just hadn't taken the final deal. So anyway, that was a good experience. I got to work with the Brits, the Filipinos, the Koreans, and U.S. Army, and Marine Corps. Wow, I mean, I had the whole world. And then all of a sudden, they wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is really, well, a lot of people have no idea. They wake us up at 3 o'clock in the morning. By 4 o'clock in the morning, we're having muster out there. I'm in the war room, everything. We got messages going in and out and back and forth all around. And we're backloading everything that we'd offloaded on the beach there in the Philippines. We're backloading it, and we're heading back up in the Tonkin Gulf. And so I get up there, and then I get introduced. The commander, I've got his name in my books, but I can't remember. He was a commander of the Naval Air Force off of the Air Force, off of the Navy carrier. And then we get up there, and we're not doing much of anything but just getting settled in and getting organized. And then here comes a message that said that the USS Mattox had been torpedoed. Now wait a minute, I had my order of battle stuff and everything that we had just gotten within the last 24 hours or so. The North Vietnamese had no vessels that were capable of launching a torpedo. The highest that they had was a 50 caliber. So anyway, this turns the whole thing upside down. So now, I can't even go down 2 decks to the PX and buy some chewing gum because I can't leave the war room. Now what's ironic, all of a sudden, Colonel Jerry Fink became my G2, and he was also the Chief of Staff, and he was the G3, and I was everything else. I was an intelligence clerk, I was a counterintelligence chief, I was an intelligence chief. I had about 6 titles, and here I am fresh out of school, and I couldn't believe it, but I had it, and then, I'll get to that name of that commander later, but we went by helicopter over, and then went in and did a reconnaissance, aerial reconnaissance of this little island from where the USS Mattox, and then after we denied anything on the first one, there wasn't anything on the second one either. But that still got the president, Johnson, to write the damn piece of paper that could put us in that ungodly war. But there's a whole other story on that. I won't even get into it. But that's why we got into it. But we were there, and then I was supposed to come back and make my normal rotation back, and instead they were building up the 5th Marine Amphibious Force. Or not, take it back, let me correct it. The 9th Marine Expeditionary Force. And we're going to have a big meeting over in Taiwan. And so they made all these arrangements. They got me by helicopter over to another ship, floating up, everything. And then when I get up there, they won't let me on. And I find out that Colonel Fink is no longer Chief of Staff for the G2. General Davis is no longer Commanding General. Everybody, but I finally got one counterintelligence guy who actually knew less than I did, because he had no combat training in the back like I had, and he was been more of an administrator, and he was scared. He was bad. I won't mention any names, but anyway, we sat up there in that Tonkin Gulf while they're passing all these messages back and forth and everything. And where am I? I'm sitting there. I'm under a set of orders that was issued by General Ray Davis when I went into the Philippines, and he was no longer there. I had no commander, so to speak. And so I had a colonel who was a regimental commander, and he looked at them, everything, and he says, well, Tex, he says, you've got non-reporting orders, secret, you've got secret non-reporting orders. I said, what do I do with that? He says, I don't know. He says, you don't belong to me. And so here I was floating around that, and no kidding, and my service record books, I can break them open. I got the copies of them. I can show you where for months I was nowhere, but then all of a sudden I showed up from Vietnam to Okinawa, and then from Okinawa it showed where I spent a little time in Japan, like 2 days or something like that, and then I was back down again. Who was I? I didn't know who I was. I was a young Marine, and I had these orders, and every time if I wanted to be on that plane over there and boot off the MACV Inspector General, I could do it, because I had non-reporting secret orders. And I finally got back to the States. I think it was around, I have to look at my records, got them, but I think it was around September of '65. And you gotta realize that I didn't leave March the 2nd of '64. The reason I remember that was the day after my son's birthday. I left there March the 4th of '64 from San Diego, and here it was September of '65. So I had all of '64 and most of '65. And then I get back, nobody knows who in the hell I am or what I am, or how to handle me. And I get shuffled around like a golf ball out of a bucket on the course, you know, and nobody knows who it belongs to or where it's going. And anyway, I finally got in there and got settled around. And the next thing you know, they sent me, I got a set of orders going to Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, to the Army Language School. I'm going over for the Vietnamese course. I get over there, and I'm trying to get settled in, but nobody seems to know where I come from or who I belong to or where I'm going, especially me. And so I made a trip down to FMF PAC, and I got to see General Victor St. Krulak, which I had met previously in my career, and he was an avid horseman, and he liked to play polo and this sort of thing. But he was doing nothing, so I'm there going to school, and then one day they popped me up and they said, "You're out of school. You pack your gear. You got to go to catch a plane, and you're going back to the States." So that's what I did. I packed my plane. I got back. I reported into El Toro, and then they sent me to these different schools, and everything was leading right into what we were heading into with Johnson. What a nut he was. But I couldn't pursue a lot of things, but I did have the power to knock a full bird colonel off of an airplane, and because I needed to get from Da Nang to Saigon, and the Inspector General's plane was right there, and I got on it and I got to Saigon. Then I get down there and I find out that place is just as messed up as I was. Nobody knew what anybody was doing. We had way too many people and way too small. We did not have enough trained infantry troops out in the field. My goodness. So anyway, I was asked to give an intelligence analysis, and it made history. That made history. The reason I tell you this story is because it was the first report they had from anybody who had been outside the confines of Da Nang, Hue City, Palm Tree, Saigon, Dong Ho, these places, because there was nobody there. So how in the world could you fix? I found 2 Marine counterintelligence people that were holed up in a house on Tudor Street in Da Nang, and they didn't know what they were doing. But not that they were dumb, they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. They were under naval intelligence, but you couldn't find the naval intelligence people that they were under. So this was a messed up thing. So in the early days, so I stayed. I got back to the States, and then they sent me to Hawaii in July of '66. July '66, they sent me back to Hawaii to fill a counterintelligence bill at County Bay, and I was the only counterintelligence person on the air station there, and there was only a team, a counterintelligence team, but it wasn't a full team. It was only about half strength, and they were over at Camp Smith at FMF PAC, and so 1 year later, I I got a set of orders, and boom, 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 just real quick. Well, I'll tell you why I got the set of orders. Is because I had been assigned over there at General Krulak discretion. I was going to college at the University of Hawaii. We had just had the committee to stop the war in Vietnam going. We had the Jane Fonda group going and everything. And I was to infiltrate that and at the college and see what I could do. Everything was going good until this young Lieutenant J.G., who was working with Naval Intelligence over at Pearl Harbor, happened to see me at the college, and his greeting was something to the effect of, "Hey, Super Spook, how's it going?" And that was a burn right there, because who was I walking along the corridor talking to was one of Jane Fonda's people. And so it was a quick rush and get me, and I happened to have my family there, and Joyce had just had a baby girl. And so, I mean, the baby wasn't a week old, and we were on a plane coming back, and landed at L.A. But it's just a hectic. Now here I am, just in my early 20s, never been around too much, old country boy, and I'm getting sent all over the world in all types of situations. And I don't have the rank to pull on anybody. I got one set of orders. And I didn't know when they expired, because it had already been 2 years since I'd gotten them from General Davis. But anyway, got back, and as soon as I got back to the States, I was in line to go from Camp Pendleton back overseas. So they made me a company commander. Now here I am, a gunnery sergeant. I never got to serve as a real sergeant, or staff sergeant, or a gunnery sergeant. Here I am, a company commander. And so I go over with the transition unit, and everybody's pretty well assigned to where they're going, and I had no idea where I was going. But I went anyway. So when I got back into Vietnam, that time I went through Okinawa just long enough to take this list of items that I'd need and items to leave behind. But I didn't do no good leaving behind, because they weren't there when I got back. But anyhow, I went back over, and this time I got over there, and it was just boom, 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 and I was right out there with the. I have to go back to this a bit. I got into Da Nang, spent 3 days in Da Nang, an orientation course, going through the orientation with the CIA. And then from there, they flew me right up to Hoi Phu Bai. And I was waiting for a warrant officer who was transferring back to the States. A good friend of mine that got captured and killed in the offensive. But anyway, I couldn't see sitting around on my butt doing nothing. So then I was a gunnery sergeant, and most of my people were staff sergeants and sergeants. So I started taking them out and joining up with the Combined Action Platoon, going out on some patrols during the villages, trying to get them, because nobody had any information. Nobody had any intelligence. And here we're right on the face of the Tet Offensive of '68, the most fierce battle in the whole war. And people's not even listening to it. And so we started rebuilding our compound and putting in sandbags, and we were getting all kinds of stuff. And they couldn't, what this crazy gunny out there doing, you know? And that's what they did. They thought I was a crazy gunny. Well, we went through some of the toughest battles of the damn war. And thank goodness some of my craziness saved a lot of lives. But then, soon as that was over, we went back into Hawaii City, and then I finally got my official assignment to the CIA office as the advisor to the Vietnamese Special Police, the counterintelligence arm of the National Police. And that is where a lot of controversy came within the military and everything. And I'm just going to say military, but there were some individuals who were very, very wrong and everything, and they were overstepping their borders, because my position with the Special Police was, I had a GS rating of that between a full bird colonel and a one-star general. And I had lieutenants who happened to know that I was only a gunnery sergeant. I had these lieutenants who knew damn sight less than I did, that was dictating to me what was to be done, and even threatening me with court-martials and stuff, which is another story we'll get in later. But we went in, and I walked into Hawaii City, and a lot of people don't realize it was the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines that led the punch back into Hawaii City along the Trucom Canal and up along the river and over to the Citadel. But it was the 1st Marine Regiment, and I'd been with 1st Marine Regiment right just 2 weeks before that on Operation Ford. And their commanding officer was a dummy. He really was. He put people in jeopardy. And what can I say? I was counterintelligence support. Even though I was one who had all of the intelligence and all the language capabilities and all that, that lieutenant over there who had been a staff sergeant, who had just gotten, he now ruled the roost. But we got it, and we went from battle to battle to battle, and that's what we did. And I've got some individual ones that, one, I have never broken out into the public. I would like to, because I think this is the time and a place to do it. And I'm not going to degrade anybody. I'm just going to bring facts to face and just let them know what happened. Because I didn't have any power to take anything, but other people did take the power, and the one individual, and I have part of the handwritten paper from all the way back 1968, September 1968, where this controversy came apart, and our head, the #1 advisor for the CIA, he literally just took the paper and wadded up, and he says, "Here, Tex, you take care of this," because he was in a controversy with a guy called himself a Marine, but he wasn't a Marine. He was an asshole. But anyway, I've got 4 or 5 good stories that nobody else. I went through that whole war, and I was there from '63, and I was, by the way, I was the last Marine out of Da Nang. When the last planes and the last people left out of there, I did the command post evacuation inspection, and then put everything on the plane, and we took off for Iwakuni, Japan. No, I take that back. We took off for Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines to meet the returning POWs for Operation Homecoming. And it was quite a messed up thing, but the one thing I can say is that the younger military, staff NCOs, and officers were outstanding. Come out of Da Nang, and they had me go right in because I had kept the dossiers on a number of the POWs that was scheduled to be released. And Warrant Officer Thomas was one. I have to bring this up because Warrant Officer Thomas was a backseat aerial, they were gunfire spotter, okay, for the ground troops. And anyway, I gave him his pre-flight brief the morning, and he flew out with the Air Force pilot. That day he was shot down. So when the prisoners are returned, he's coming off the plane there at the Clark Field in the Philippines, and by golly, he's going along there, and I saw him come along, and I saw Jim DiBernardo or something. I can't remember because I saw 3 different plane loads. But anyway, there was Warrant Officer Thomas, and I hollered at him. I said, "Hey, Gunner Thomas, Gunner Thomas." He said, "Man," he says, "Tex Mattox, you son of a bitch, you're everywhere." He said, "You're everywhere." But anyway, it was a feeling you never would experience if you haven't been there. And to have somebody that was given daily pre-flight, because see, we had no one else there in the intelligence field do that. And I had contact with the MACV people, who we had Marine advisors with the Vietnamese Marines up there sending us reports in. And so it was only, I couldn't say, well, that's not my MOS, I can't do it. Because it was intelligence, and that's my big thing right there. But it was just an awesome thing. And so then they decided that another thing they did, we had so damn many people who didn't need to be there, politicians and high-ranking military and stuff like that, that they stuck me in a local motel out in Angeles City, and then I could call and get transportation in. But after 2 days, and with the information I had already garnered in the past years from some of them, and that we were pretty well up, and so they had me, well, this Lieutenant Colonel, and he felt sorry for me because I'd been over there all this time, and these other guys just came in, they pushed me out, you know, and everything, and so they had me get my gear packed and everything. Put me on a plane, commercial flight. I never heard of this before, but we landed in Iwakuni, Japan, and they gave me 8 hours. 8 hours of time to get all my stuff together, check out through customs, get everything ready, and I went to the PX, and I had not garnered any money for so long time, and plus I had the credit union, and I had access to cross the seas phone, and so I called Lucy from the credit union, and I got another thing, and she verified my money to the PX, and I bought about $1,200 worth of cameras and stuff like that. Anyway, we got everything in and got loaded. Okay, now, not even thinking about it, I hit up at the Sacramento, not Sacramento, but what's that air base right there? Just above Sacramento. Anyway, I get there and it's Saturday morning. They've got a young little lieutenant out there that's in charge of the air police. He don't know crap. Nobody has told him about anything. So I try to get transportation because I need to go to Oak Knoll Hospital in Oakland, and then I need to come down to Naval Hospital in Long Beach, then Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton, and then Naval Hospital San Diego. And these are all on non-reporting secret orders, and I've got to go to Oakland and everything up around civilian airline and LA. You're talking about a mess. But anyway, I couldn't get any transportation. This lieutenant had to be dumber than mud. But I tried to even just have him get me over to somebody above him, you know. Good. So I ended up, I called one of my old rodeo buddies that lived up there, and he came over with his hippie friend. He picked me up, took me to Oak Knoll Hospital. I delivered the debriefs there. And finally found somebody that would sign for the classified documents. Then I went over to Dennis took me over to the Oakland airport. Well, I thought, well, I better go hit the men's room before I get on that plane. And so I did, and as I was coming back out, I see all my luggage and stuff sitting right there, and I checked it in. I thought I checked it in, but it was right there, my luggage, everything. So I go over and I start checking on my flight, and this poor young lady, she was just flabbergasted. She had no idea what was going on. She had never witnessed a set of military classified orders with priority 1 aircraft on it, anything. It was totally new. Here's my stuff, and she can't find me. Why? Because I'm taking a tinkle in the restroom. So I come back. She gets her supervisor. We go over and we sit down, and I'd already called ahead, and I'd had friend Judy, who was taking care of my horses and my vehicles and everything while I was overseas. I'd already called her in Oceanside, and she was going to LA. So she had my El Camino, and so anyway, once I got on the plane at Oakland, it was good, and we had a nice flight down and everything, but they didn't know. The people on the aircraft didn't know, but there was no military liaison people there. And when I get to Los Angeles, I'd walk a half a mile, getting over there to where this military liaison office is. I get over there and there's this young, I can't remember who, I think it's Army, he was African American young soldier, and nobody had informed him about anything. He didn't know. Oh, he had some flyers that if you wanted some information, read the flyer. You know, that sort of a thing. Wasn't his fault. He had poor supervision. So I get over to him, and he can't do me any good because so I give Judy, and Judy comes up and picks me and my stuff up, and then we go to Long Beach Hospital. And then I had one little package of notes to drop off at El Toro, and then we was down to Camp Pendleton, and then the San Diego Naval Hospital. And boy, when they got down there, they'd like to walk my legs off. That's a big place, but they had me all in the wrong direction, you know. Instead of over here in the administrative deal, they had me over here in the medical deal. But anyway, got back. Now I hadn't been asleep since we left Ibuku, Japan. And I was plumb tired. So I told Judy, I said, just, when you get Puerto Escondido, I said, I stayed in a hotel there, a motel there and I was over here for a rodeo one time, and I said, it's pretty reasonable, I mean. Well, it was very reasonable because we got in there and I found out what it is. The manager just gave me the room. Mm. Did, just give it to me. And so I got me a few hours sleep. Now, you have to remember that I had non-reporting secret orders, right? Now, who in the heck can I find around that's got the access to my secret orders, right? Now, if I have non-reporting, who's gonna let me report to them? So I'm stuck. I'm floating, and it was quite a thing. So I started making some phone calls, and of course we had no cell phones back in those days, you know, and everything, and so I didn't know whether I should be San Diego, Camp Pendleton, El Toro, where, you know. So it was kind of a messed up deal. But at least I had one thing. I had a friend that could tell me my horses were okay, and I had my car. So I just went and kicked back until Monday, and I didn't have any place else to go, so I went over to the old Naval Hospital at Camp Pendleton, and I just walked in over there and I just checked myself in. They said, well, what's your problem? I said, I got so many problems you don't want to hear them. But, no, I did have some medical thing that they needed to take care of, and nothing serious. But I became a celebrity overnight there. They gave me a little cubicle room down there with a bed, a TV. I could walk right out and see Lake O'Neill and see the people fishing and everything. I walk around and talk to other Marines and stuff. And finally I got a message back from headquarters Marine Corps, and it was the worst set of orders I ever had. And they didn't know it. Headquarters Marine Corps didn't know it, but they didn't know how bad that Bernie Baronin had been to me in the past years. He was so jealous of all of my assignments with the CIA and Naval Investigative Service and stuff like that. I was well known for doing surreptitious photography. I was investigative photography trained, and there in Oceanside, I set everything up in my pickup and my camper, and with my big telephoto lenses and special film and everything. And I took a picture again of Jane Fonda with a couple of young Marines, and but one of them had come out really good, and I processed the film and everything, and no grain in it, and I made a nice little 5x7 head and shoulders of Jane Fonda and this young Marine, and I put it in a frame and everything. I put it on the head of the Naval Investigative Office. I put it on his desk, and that's quite a thing. And in fact, there's 2 or 3 copies of that picture still floating around. I think Al Falcone that lives down in Fallbrook, I think he's got one. And, it was just one of those things. And then when I was in counterintelligence, and I'm going to bring this up now because I just got a phone call yesterday that my good friend Chuck had passed away. Chuck Klein. Chuck served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And we were known as the Mutt and Jeff team. He was 6'3" and about 235 pounds. And didn't look heavy, just a great big man. And he'd started out in the infantry and machine guns and mortars and everything, and worked his way up and got in counterintelligence. But Al called me yesterday and told me Chuck just passed away, 90 years old. But anyway, when I checked in, I went in the 6th CI team in El Toro one time, and I didn't know my way around. And Chuck got my attention, and I started talking to him, found out that he said, well, you probably need to come up here with me. And he was the team chief of the counterintelligence team. And everything was fine, except for one thing. I wasn't going to this 6th CI team. I didn't know where the heck I was going. But when I got in the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing headquarters the next day, but then they just turned me around and put me TAD right back to Camp Pendleton to the 1st Marine Amphibious Force. So, yes, I had to go into El Toro, but I wasn't staying. not unpacking. I was getting my orders stamped and boom, because the counterintelligence support for the IMAF was coming from the wing, and I was the only one in the wing to fill it. So that was good. But what that all brings about is that how I was a young Marine, non-commissioned officer, getting bounced all around the world. And I never knew where home base was. And I belonged to people in counterintelligence units for years, and they didn't even know who the hell I was. And then they wondered why I was missing fitness reports. I was under secret orders, wearing my hair long. For example, I'll go right down to the nuclear power plant at Camp Pendleton. I was undercover. working against the anti-nuclear people. How could I get a up-to-date photograph in my dress uniform, everything, when I've got hair growing down to my shoulders? And I'm out there with the packing around trying to pick up something on Jane Fonda and her group, you know.
Yeah.
And, or the Symbionese Liberation Army. I had all that. So what could I do with it? I would do it every time.
Good.
But there's so many gaps of what we've been discussing here. It's because I've been kind of jerking around. I've got a lot of this. I can put that. I can put this stuff together. I don't even know what's in there. There's a bunch of stuff in there that runs. Okay, look at that right there. Look at that right from it. It's my 1956 hike, 101 mile hike, I think it is. Is it mine?
101 miles Echo Company.
Right.
25 through 29 June 1956.
Mm-hmm.
This is all your certifications here. This one's a bunch of newspaper articles or one of your original.
Oh yeah, the second ITR.
Yeah, 1956.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, newspaper article. This one looks like.
Seven.
Yeah. So the photo album.
What's this one over here? That me or something? Oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
That's a self-portrait I took that in Japan. I was in Japan when I took that. Went down to the photo lab and set the timer and everything.
Oh, your retirement orders and certificate.
Oh yeah. Shows that I did finish school. I can probably get some more documents and stuff. I know that I've got them. And oh, hey.
So what year did you finally retire out of the Marine Corps?
I got my 30 years in 85.
You retired right after that?
I think it was. Anyway, I gotta on my retirement. Where did he go?
Well, and then real briefly, since you retired, I know you've been involved in a bunch of things.
Oh yeah, did the rodeos here in Temecula and Lake Elsinore. A lot of them. Let's see.
And you work with the VFWs locally too?
What's that?
You work with the VFWs?
Oh yeah, I'm a life member of the VFW. Right now I'm a member of the Baltimore, but before that I spent 12 years as a member of the Winchester, and then I spent 25 years as a volunteer for the Riverside County Parks Open Space and Trail, and then the 12 years of that, I was actually on the Trails Committee, holding an office on the Trails Committee, getting it all set up, and I've accomplished putting together over 1,500 miles of trails throughout.
Out
this
the,
area.
it's part of the county.
Yeah, the county, and not only this county, but it's part of San Diego County, part of Orange County, and all that. When they tie in, you know, like we got the trails that come all the way across here and go all the way to San Juan Capistrano. Well, once we get up over the Ortega highways and stuff, then we're going into Orange County. But we still got trails go along the San Juan Creek up there. And we got to go along the borderline between the old, the two ranches, Rancho Santa Margarita and which is now Camp Pendleton.
Right.
And in fact, just a few years ago was the first time that one gate had been open to anybody to pass through since the government took it over and purchased it for a base. We come off of Camp Pendleton and right through Talega Creek and Talega Canyon and over, and then they brought a D6 dozer down and pushed it down to where we could get up with the horses, and we got up there and kind of a branch road and went around. But I've done trails. I know I've done over 1,500 miles of trails, because there's a lot of these trails that's really neat, because you can be one city block away from the other trail and you have no idea there's another trail anywhere close. And so you got two trails running north and northeast, you know, and like that, and people forget that, well, this one's 30 miles long and this one's 30 miles long, it's 60 miles. But they don't see that, they see one little piece up there, and that's
all
so,
they
but I got the trails that covers all the way in from McCall Park, and it comes down through Anza, and right behind Lake Riverside area up there, and then down in the Reed Valley, and from Reed Valley all the way into in Wayne Country.
Yeah.
And all the way from here. In fact, I got 7 ways right now that we could saddle the horse right here, and 7 different ways to go to Mexico. And they're all trails.
All through.
And if it wasn't for the politician, they'd be legal. But that's just the way it is, you know. And it's fun. All the mountains over here. I've been in those mountains all the way from down below San Diego, below Rancho Santa Fe and Carlsbad, from all the way down in there, all the way up across, over Camp Pendleton, up through here all the way in the Norco, and then actually we kind of did a loop around and come around on Corona, on the Corona area, and come around there, and then looped around, because that valley, Temescal Valley, was a heavily traveled valley in the early days, all the way back to the days of the Native Americans.
Right.
600 years, and that comes all right down from the Santa Ana River, comes right all the way down, and comes right on through Temescal Canyon, down to Lake Elsinore, Murrieta, Temecula, all the way out. A lot of people don't realize, it wasn't very many years ago, that you couldn't come from Riverside to San Diego the way we go right now, or even close to it. you had to cut all the way over by Hammond and around and circle back around and down, and then down by Rainbow and down by the Pechanga Reservation and Pala Reservation, and all the way down to the Margarita River and Santa, all of them. You know them all.
Yeah, San Luis
They
Rodeo,
all
and
flow to the
out to
ocean.
the coast and then up or down.
Yeah, they all flow to the coast. And a lot of people have no idea the amount of history that's right in these hills right over here. I mean, there's years ago I was up there with Warner and Jerry Stewart, and Jimmy Sackett was alive then too, and we were going through some of the old military carriages and all that kind of stuff that had been left up there once the military pulled out of California after the Civil War. And it's quite a thing. But, it's very, very interesting. And then the trails, some of the trails here, people drive right by them every day and have no idea about it. And I'm going to mention them. You know Slaughterhouse Canyon Trail? Wonderful trail. Nobody takes care of it anymore.
No.
Once they shut off Lemon Street, going up the hill up to the where there's tree huggers and animal rights people are all messed up because they're way out of bounds.
Oh, Old Tanaha Road.
Yeah, Tanaha Road, yeah. Because that road is a historical road, and it should be a historical trail, and it should. And I used it for 4 or 5 years after they did. In fact, it pissed me off so much. I brought the Deander Trail Caballeros over from the Jim. Up there, right on the county line between San Diego County and Tanaha, up there.
Yeah, Duluth Canyon, Foley Jim Canyon.
Yeah.
Up in,
You go all the way up there. Old Tom Knight, he was his wife's way back up
right, toward Santa Margarita Peak over,
Right.
over from there is Cave Springs on Camp Pendleton.
Right down in
Fulgus Canyon.
down in the creek there, and I've been up there and put all them markers out. The trails are there; they're legitimate. They're national trails, and nobody can tell you can't use them. All you gotta do is make damn sure you close the gates afterwards,
Right.
because they do have grazing rights. But anyway, all them trails up in there, all the way over, but it's easy to saddle a horse right here and go right down Menifee Road, cross Scott. Actually, you don't want to go there. You want to go to the next street up there.
Briggs.
No, Lindenberger.
Lindbergh, yeah.
Go up to Lindenberger and go down, and then cut across and go over, and you can go all the way over and go down and hit Baxter Road and cross the freeway and go up there and then turn and go in behind the golf course and hit the Slaughterhouse Canyon Trail and go all the way up, and at the top you got to pull off to the right and go over and then go through the park up there and then go out the other side and you go up to Poison Oak Trail, and then there's that other trail up there that's legitimately part of the California Highway Department, but they...
Yeah, because it kind of, it generally follows Old Tanaha Road, and it
Right.
takes you out to Margarita Peak,
Right.
out through the, because there's Forest Service land, and it hits the
Right.
Marine Corps base boundary, and,
Right.
you know.
And
Okay.
you come out up there, what's Jim's last name up there?
Knight.
Huh?
Jim Knight?
No, Tom Knight up there. Jim, when you go right across the county line, across the cattle guards there, you go across and that's the old Johnson Homestead Ranch right there.
Okay.
And that's, oh shit, Jim raised his family. I know the whole family, I can't think of the last name. And then there's another retired dentist now, and him and his wife, they have another ranch back in the trees. That if you was to go up if you go through the cattle guard there and then make a left like that and then to the right, and then that road, the old Town Hall Road that goes all the way down into the
That's when it goes into Duluth?
Go down to Duluth.
Yeah, the old Duluth truck trail.
Yeah, the old Duluth truck road. Yeah, that one right there, but there's another trail that goes off of that back over there. That's a really nice trail. It's on private property, but I have permission to use it anytime. I brought in the Neanderthal Trail Cabrioles to there, and they can't believe it.
It's a beautiful country up there.
Well, yeah, and boy, in the spring, you got the honeysuckle up there. It's wonderful. We got a lot of trails right within this area here of Temecula, Murrieta, Lake Elsinore, and Wildemore, and it's and you can go all the way out to Anza, want to, because once you get up there, Highway 371 turns off up there from 79 south,
Mm-hmm.
and there's out there on Wilson Valley Road, there's a beautiful place out there. The Murrietas have built a ranch out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is gorgeous. And you just go out 79, and right before you get Sunshine Summit, you turn left there on and then you just follow that up, and then you just go back. Boy, they got a beautiful ranch here.
Yeah.
And it's right below Beauty Mountain. Beauty Mountain's on the maps and stuff. And around and it will follow the Pacific Crest Trail right up through Coyote Canyon and right into Prairie Springs, and then you can go up and go around and come right back around. Come up the other trail from down in the low desert, and you come up through there up to Murrieta Hot Springs, and then across and go right back over to. It's a 3-day ride.
Right.
But it's but I forget who. Louis Tavoloni's been on the Enza ride. He hadn't been able to ride here lately, but he rode 50 years, and he's been on it longer than that, because this is his 60th year, I think, coming up. And he rode, that's what I'm looking for, is I got a whole thing with all of these awards. I just had it out here for, what's her name?
Yeah.
It's got all these thank yous and everything from the Santa Rosa Plateau Writing Group, from the Los Caballeros.
Well, let's do this, Lynn. We've covered your military stuff, we've touched on your trail systems. I'd like to take some photos here of some of your stuff, and then set up an appointment with you, come back, and we can talk about your rodeo days,
Okay.
and then we can branch off into some of the other
Sure.
horse stuff you've been doing, because that's a whole story in itself that I'd like to get down. So
More recent.
yeah, but like I said, it's a whole other story.
Yeah,
And
well,
so
I've got, like you said, I got the military, I got the Marine Corps, and I mean, that is the Marine Corps, I got the military, and then I've got the rodeo, and then I've got all these trails
Yeah.
and stuff. 'Cause
Yeah.
all the volunteer work he's done.
I've
Right.
got,
None of it.
I've got 25 years on the Trails Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And see, there's some of the old timers that haven't been around for years and years. I was out marking easements with them,
Yeah, 25 years
you
ago.
know, when I was still active duty in the Marine Corps. When I first moved to Murrieta.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you, Lynn. We'll shut this off, and then, like I said, I'll make an appointment with you, and we'll come back, and
Okay.
we'll pick that up, so.
Okay, well, I kinda got an idea of what you're looking for.
Yeah, because we've been going an hour and a half here, so. But
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah,
You don't have to prompt him too much, do you?